There's a level of discipline that makes people look at you with fear. Not respect, not inspiration, fear. And today, you're going to discover exactly how to get there. Have you ever seen that person who never fails? Not the person who talks the loudest. Not the person who posts the most quotes. The person who simply never breaks. The one who wakes up every day at the same time, does the same things, and just never stops. They don't feel like it. They don't wait for motivation. They don't start on Monday. They just do it. While everyone else gives up by the third week, they keep going. While everyone else starts bargaining with themselves, they keep moving. While everyone else makes excuses, they show up like it's automatic. And you know what people say about them? Man, that's not normal. And that's the point. Because there's an ancient system created by Zen monks in Japan that produces exactly this kind of frightening consistency. They call it Gyoji, the practice that perpetuates itself. A practice that keeps going even when you don't want to. A practice that runs like a machine even when your emotions are screaming. And once you understand how it works, you'll stop breaking your goals. You'll stop starting over. You'll stop being the person who tries. Because you'll build something that continues. But there's a catch. This system isn't for everyone. It requires you to kill a part of yourself you never knew existed. A part that feels normal. A part that feels harmless. A part that feels like you. And if you don't understand what that part is, you'll never be consistent for long. But before I show you how it works, subscribe to the channel, like it below, and comment the habit you most want to create in your life. Tell me the thing you keep starting and stopping. This helps me a lot and shows me you're genuinely interested in changing. Let's go. Chapter 1. The Awakening. The story I'm about to tell you happened to a programmer named Raphael. Raphael was smart. He wasn't lazy. He wasn't clueless. He had a successful career and the kind of brain people assume would make discipline easy. He could solve problems. He could focus for work. He could get results when someone was paying him. But he had one problem. He couldn't stick to any habit for more than 2 weeks. The gym. He'd go hard, feel strong, start imagining a new life, and then he'd stop. Sometimes it lasted 2 weeks. Sometimes 2 months. But it always ended the same way. He stopped showing up. Meditation. He'd do it for a few days, maybe a week, feel calm, tell himself he was becoming that kind of person, then disappear. Reading. He'd buy a book, get excited, read 3 pages, and then forget it in the drawer like it never existed. And the worst part was how predictable it was. The pattern was always the same. Monday, total motivation. The fresh start. The fantasy version of himself. The "this time is different" energy. Wednesday, the first mental negotiation. The first little crack. The first maybe later. Friday, complete surrender. The habit feels heavy. The excitement is gone. The reason feels weak. The resistance feels strong. Sunday, promises about the next week. Plans. Guilt. Another restart. Another, "I swear I'll do it." Raphael tried everything. Habit tracking apps. Reward systems. Accountability partners. Streak counters. Productivity hacks. New notebooks. New routines. New systems. He kept searching for the one trick that would finally make him consistent. Nothing worked, because he was fighting something he couldn't even imagine. The very architecture of his brain. He thought he was battling laziness, but it wasn't laziness. He thought he was battling motivation, but it wasn't motivation. He thought he was battling discipline, but it wasn't discipline. It was something deeper. And then one day, Raphael discovered something that changed him. He discovered why Zen monks can meditate for centuries without missing a single day. And no, it's not willpower. It's something much deeper and much more frightening. Chapter 2. The Secret of the Monks. In Zen temples, there's a rule that seems simple, almost boring, like something you'd ignore because it doesn't sound powerful. But it changes everything. Gyoji. Literally translated, it means continuous practice without gaps. Without gaps. Do you understand what that really means? It doesn't mean most days. It doesn't mean when you can. It doesn't mean when life allows it. It means no gaps, no holes, no breaks where the old version of you can sneak back in. It means that since 1200 AD, every single day at 3:30 a.m., a bell rings at a high temple. And since 1200 AD, every single day, the monks wake up. Not at 3:25 a.m., not at 3:35 a.m., exactly at 3:30 a.m. Think about that. Hundreds of years. Wars, disease, cold winters, hot summers, good days, bad days. The bell rings. They wake up. You want to know what never happens in that temple? No monk lies in bed thinking, should I skip today? No monk lies there bargaining like, I'm tired, maybe just this once. That question simply doesn't exist in their minds. Why? Because they understand something you don't yet. Your brain categorizes every commitment into two boxes: reversible or irreversible. Reversible commitments become mental negotiations. They become debates. They become feelings. They become maybe. They become later. They become tomorrow. They become excuses that sound reasonable in the moment. Irreversible commitments simply happen. They're not debates. They're not decisions. They're not emotional. They're like gravity. And in the temple, the practice is treated as irreversible. When a monk takes his vows in front of the entire community, he's not making a promise. He's changing his identity. He's not promising to try to meditate. He's declaring himself a meditator. And the community witnesses it. That moment matters because the identity changes. And when the identity changes, the negotiation ends. This is why most people fail, because they keep their habits in the reversible box. They treat the gym like a preference, meditation like an option, reading like a hobby, something they might do if the day feels right. The monks don't do that. And Raphael finally understood why. A Harvard University neuroscientist who has been studying habits for 15 years discovered something that sounds simple but hits your primitive brain like a weapon. When you make a behavior public, your brain interprets failure as a survival threat, not a small threat, not a "that's embarrassing" threat, a survival threat. Our ancestors who lost status in the tribe often died. They lost protection. They lost access. They lost safety. They were left behind. Your brain still carries that wiring. So when you announce something publicly, you don't just want to follow through. You feel like you have to. That's exactly what Raphael did. He stopped making private promises, and he started making public declarations. Not, I'm going to try. Not, I hope I can. Not, I'll see how it goes. He wrote on paper, I am a person who meditates 20 minutes every day at 5 a.m. for 90 consecutive days. He signed it. He posted it on social media. He told everyone. He didn't whisper it. He didn't hide it. He didn't keep it safe. He made it real. And people reacted exactly how you'd expect. His girlfriend said, "You're being too dramatic." His coworker said, "Man, you're trying too hard." Perfect. Every person he knew became fuel. Because now, every time he wanted to quit, it wasn't just him versus the habit. It was him versus humiliation. Every morning he wanted to give up, he imagined having to look everyone in the face and admit he was just another guy who couldn't deliver on his promises. And that pain changed the equation. Day 3 brought the first real test. The alarm clock hit 5 a.m. Immediately, his mind began its usual routine. You're exhausted. This isn't healthy. One day won't make a difference. But something fundamental had changed. The thought of posting online that he'd lost after 3 days was unbearable. The thought of looking his girlfriend in the face and admitting he'd given up again felt worse than waking up. The public declaration had made quitting more painful than continuing. But here the real problem began. Chapter 3. The internal war. Even with all this social pressure, Raphael was still waging war every single day. Because his body didn't care about his reputation. His body wanted comfort. His body wanted sleep. His body wanted the easy path when it was tired. The public declaration ended the mental negotiation, but it didn't end biology. He still fought his nervous system every morning. And that's when he discovered the monk's second principle: non-negotiable hours. Every day, you waste mental energy on the same stupid question. When will I do this? Now or after breakfast? Morning or night? Before work or after work? This decision burns up glucose in your brain that should be used for actual practice. You're wasting fuel deciding when to drive instead of actually driving. And you don't notice it because you call it planning, but it's not planning. It's bargaining disguised as logic. Raphael chose 5 a.m. Not because he was a morning person, not because he loved watching the sunrise, not because he wanted to be that guy. He chose 5 a.m. because the world was asleep. No messages, no emails, no distractions, no excuses. The time wasn't about optimization. It was about elimination. Eliminating every possible reason to do it later. Because later is where habits go to die. The first week was hell. His body fought against it every morning. That's normal. Your body is a machine that runs on patterns, and you're forcing it to build a new one. It resists. It complains. It creates pain and fatigue that feels like a warning even when it's not. But in the second week, something changed. He started waking up 2 minutes before his alarm. His body had begun preparing for what now awaited him. On the 14th, the alarm rang and his feet touched the floor before his conscious mind even engaged. No thought, no decision, just movement. That's what fixed hours do. Here's what most people don't understand. Fixed hours are not about finding the perfect schedule. They are about removing time as a variable. When you do something at different times every day, you're asking your brain to make a new decision every time. And every decision is a chance to negotiate. But when the schedule is fixed, your brain can't argue with a constant. A constant doesn't care about mood. A constant doesn't care about energy. A constant just is. But Raphael discovered a new problem. His schedule was fixed, but he kept changing what he did during that time. Some mornings, meditation felt right. Other days, he read. Sometimes a few push-ups. His brain had found a new negotiating point. Instead of arguing about when, he started arguing about what. 20 minutes at 5 a.m. became reliable, but the practice itself became chaos. The fixed schedule had solved half the equation, but his mind was still finding loopholes. He'd eliminated the when, but not the what. And this is where Dogen's teaching on forms became controversial, because it requires you to do exactly the same thing every single day, until your mind completely surrenders. Chapter 4. The One Way. You think variety keeps things interesting. You think variety keeps you motivated. You think variety saves you from boredom. But variety is actually where consistency dies. Because every time you change what you're doing, your brain has to make micro decisions. Should I do push-ups or burpees today? Which book should I read? How long should I meditate? What playlist? What routine? What intensity? Every small decision is a crack where your old patterns leak back in. Your old self doesn't need to defeat you with one big punch. It only needs you to hesitate. It only needs one crack. Raphael understood that. So he locked everything down. 20 push-ups, 10 minutes of meditation, 10 minutes of reading. Same order, same timer, same sequence, same practice. Every day. He called it his personal Engo period. 90 days of identical practice. His friends called him robotic. His girlfriend said he was getting annoying. They didn't understand that annoying was exactly the point. Because annoying means you stopped adjusting for comfort. Annoying means you stopped trying to make your practice emotionally pleasant. Annoying means you stopped negotiating. Third week, his mind went to war. Every morning, it screamed for variety. This is stupid. You're not a robot. Mix things up or you'll burn yourself out. But Raphael didn't mix it up. He didn't debate. He didn't bargain. He did the same thing again. Fourth week, something broke. Not his discipline, his resilience. The voice of negotiation grew quieter. It didn't disappear in one day. It faded, because the mind learns a dangerous lesson when it keeps losing. Negotiation doesn't work anymore. By week 6, he was halfway through his push-ups before he even realized he'd started. The practice was taking care of itself. This is what people don't understand about consistency. It's not about willpower lasting forever. It's about repetition until willpower is no longer needed. Your body learns the sequence like a dancer learns choreography. A dancer doesn't wake up and decide if they'll do the steps. They just do the steps. An MIT researcher who has studied the automatization of behaviors for 12 years explains, when you repeat an action in the same context for approximately 66 days, the basal ganglia of the brain take over. The behavior becomes automatic. You are no longer deciding to do it. You are simply doing it. On the 35th, Raphael caught the flu. On the 40th, he was traveling for work. And this is where the old pattern kicks in for almost everyone. Sick day, rest day, travel, exception. This is where you gave up before. This is where everyone gives up, because perfect practice requires perfect conditions. And perfect conditions do not exist. But Dogen understood something about gaps that changes everything. He wrote that practice must continue without even a moment of gap, because in that gap, all your old patterns return. What saved Raphael when everything went wrong was understanding this. Practice doesn't require perfection. It requires continuity. Chapter 5. Practice without gap. The all-or-nothing lie has killed more consistency than laziness ever could. You tell yourself, if I can't do the full 20 minutes, why do anything? If I can't do perfect push-ups, I'll wait until tomorrow. If I can't do the whole routine, it doesn't count. That thinking creates gaps. And gaps are where your old self crawls back in. Look at any elite athlete and you'll see something people misinterpret. They have rest days. But those rest days are still progress. They're intentional, strategic, planned. Never because they feel lazy. Never because they don't want to train. A rest day allows them to train harder tomorrow. That's still movement toward the goal. But when you skip because you're tired, that's not rest. It's retreat. Rest moves you forward. Retreat pulls you backward. A river never stops flowing. During a drought, it may be a trickle, but it never stops. The moment it stops, it's no longer a river. It's a memory of where the water used to be. Your practice is the same. The moment you create a gap, you're no longer practicing. You're someone who used to practice. Travel day arrived on day 40. Airport at 4 a.m. Meetings all day. No gym at the hotel. Raphael did push-ups in the airport bathroom. People looked at him like he'd lost his mind. Great. He meditated in the Uber. He read on the plane. Nothing was perfect, but everything maintained momentum toward the same goal he declared 90 days ago. This is Gyoji. Practice continuing itself. That's when people started to notice. Coworkers said he seemed different. Friends said he was becoming obsessive. Someone actually said his discipline wasn't healthy. That normal people don't act like that. When you hear these words, you know you're on the right track. Normal people get normal results. You're not trying to be normal. You're trying to be unbreakable. But here's what no one prepares you for. The unexpected obstacles you never saw coming. The things you can't plan for, because you don't know they exist. Chapter 6. Pre-solutions. Your child gets sick. Your car breaks down on the way to the gym. Your boss keeps you late. These are consistency killers because you haven't pre-decided how to handle them. Every time an unexpected obstacle appears, you have to make a decision under stress. And that decision, in that moment of chaos, is where you'll choose the path of least resistance every time. The obstacle wins because you're fighting a battle you didn't prepare for. Zen monasteries have operated for centuries without missing a single day of practice. Earthquakes, wars, famines. The practice continues. How? They don't make decisions when obstacles arise. The answer already exists. When the meditation hall floods, they go to the dining hall. When the dining hall catches fire, they sit in the courtyard. There is no meeting, no discussion, no negotiation. The bell rings. The response is automatic. Raphael wrote down every obstacle that had ever broken his consistency and pre-solved each one. Plan for rain, push-ups in the garage, guests staying home, silent workout in the bathroom, hangover, which shouldn't happen, but if it does, 2 push-ups, 1 minute of meditation, 1 page of reading. Each scenario had its predetermined response. When X happens, I do Y. No thinking, no negotiating, just execution. The power of this isn't just maintaining the sequence. It's that you stop wasting mental energy on decisions. Your brain knows that no matter what happens tomorrow, the practice continues. That certainty changes your entire nervous system. A Yale University behavioral psychologist who has been studying Decision M for 20 years found, when you pre-decide your actions, you remove decision fatigue from the critical moment. Your prefrontal cortex responsible for willpower remains intact to execute rather than decide. Day 70. Raphael's practice had become completely automatic. He would sometimes wake up not even remembering doing the push-ups. His body simply moved through the sequence like a programmed machine. His girlfriend's mother visited for a week. He did push-ups in the bathroom at 5 a.m. The practice continued because the answers were already written. On the 90th, he completed his personal Ango. 3 months of uninterrupted practice. But something deeper had happened. He was no longer the same person. Friends literally told him, "Your consistency is scary." His response was perfect. Great. Chapter 7. The Transformation. Because when your discipline makes others uncomfortable, you're finally operating at the right level. Your existence proves that everything they say is impossible, is actually just uncomfortable. That's why they'll call you obsessive. That's why they'll say you need balance. They need you to slow down so they can feel better about standing still. But you're not doing it for them. You're doing it because you've discovered the secret. Consistency isn't about doing something every day. It's about becoming someone who can't do it any other way. When you implement the Gyoji System, public declaration, fixed schedule, a seamless practice method, pre-resolved answers, you're not just creating habits. You're reshaping your identity. You stop being someone who tries and become someone who simply is. And when that happens, when that transformation is complete, people will look at you and think, "How does he do that?" And the answer will be simple. He doesn't. He is. The question remains, are you ready for this level of transformation? Because it's not about discipline. It's about death and rebirth. The death of your inconsistent self. The birth of your unbreakable self. The Gyoji System won't make you a better person. It'll make you a different person. Someone others will look at and think, "That's not normal." And when you hear those words, you'll know you've finally gotten where you want to be. If this video changed your perspective on discipline and consistency, subscribe to the channel and activate the bell so you don't miss future content that will transform you. And tell me in the comments, what will your public declaration be? What habit will you implement using the Gyoji System? Remember, the consistency that scares others is the only consistency worth having. If you've watched this far, thank you very much for your attention. See you in the next video.